Will James get into trouble snooping for Kimmy and Anna? Let's find out. James was at peace with his decision to keep the Johnsons' name out of it. He knew the price for practicing magic, and these were good people. They had a fun day visiting. They ate watermelon and laughed as the kids got more on them than in them. Mr. Johnson said it was okay, though. It wasn't good if you didn't get it all over your face. The children played in the creek and caught minnows and crawdads. James found a bucket with a lid so they could take them home with them. The girls promised to release them into their section of the creek when they got home, and James acted relieved by their promise. He was disappointed that Anna hadn't come today, but he knew she was working on her own leads in the case. He believed she would come, just like she promised, in a day or two. The evening ended, and the Johnson family headed for home. James had no idea how they managed all those children. He was exhausted from playing all day and answering endless questions. Once, one of the girls had even asked why frogs were green. James was sure he could find out, but he just said it was because green was their favorite color. This seemed to be an acceptable answer to her, and she jogged away. He fixed himself a thick peanut butter and grape jelly sandwich, poured a huge glass of milk, and rested on the couch until it was time for bed. There were no dreams, either good or bad, for James that night. He believed he was too tired to dream, so he was well rested when the light came through his window. He stayed around the house until lunch. He was convinced Anna wouldn't show today. He put a note on the door, just in case, and headed to the barn. He saddled up Betsy and headed out for a ride. He thought he might ride up the mountain and do a little digging. He might run into Miss Maids again and see if he could find out why she had lied about the Johnsons. James wanted to get ahead of this fast-moving train if he could. James took his time traveling to the top of the mountain. It really was beautiful up here, on top of the world. It seemed strange to him how different it was from the bottom to the top. He found the air was crisper and cooler the further he rode, and fall was more evident in everything. James slipped on a jacket from his saddlebags to ward off the nip in the air. The wildlife he saw was bustling around and preparing for the approaching winter. He saw squirrels with their cheeks full, scampering to their homes with their treasures. The deer flicked their tails, and the bucks had their noses high in the air, searching for a mate. Fall mating meant spring fawns, so the deer were intent on their missions. They barely glanced in his direction as he passed. The leaves were almost gone from their branches, and James knew the seasons were fighting for dominance. He rode to the road that led to Miss Mains's house. He had to decide right now if he would go and talk to her or not. He knew it. Probably wasn't a wise decision, but he turned Betsy down the path, and off they went. As he approached, he saw Miss Mains in her yard, hanging clothes on the line to dry. "Well, so nice to see you in my neck of the woods so soon, James," Ms. Mains greeted. James was surprised that she could tell it was him at this distance. There was no squinting or shielding her eyes from the sun as she had done previously. She wasn't even wearing her glasses today. "Yes, ma'am. My friend and I had such a good time the other day, so I thought I would come and find some new places for us to explore the next time she visits. I thought you might know of some good places, like caves or, stuff like that." "I'm sorry if I'm keeping you from your work," James lied. He trotted his mare up to the fence where Ms. Mains was working near and slipped down from the saddle. "I'm sure you did have a nice time the other day," she said. James noticed her off-colored tone and wondered if she knew how nice it had really been. "That's a beautiful animal you got there," she said. "Thanks. She's a good one, a real friend. She doesn't think much of these long trips, though," James said. He patted the horse's shoulder and rubbed her face lovingly. "I'm sure she doesn't. I have an old mare up there in the barn. She's been under the weather here lately. She's been lame on her front right for several days. I can't seem to find out what is ailing her. It might just be the weather or old Rummy coming to visit her old bones. It's a shame, too. She is a really good companion to me. Sure-footed as any horse you've ever seen, I can promise you that," Ms. Mains said. James was willing to do anything to keep her talking. He knew she had forgotten more than he would ever know about a horse, but he would try his luck anyway. "I would be glad to take a look if you would like me to. I have had to fix up my girls more times than I can count. But it's true what they say. Sometimes two sets of eyes are better than one, James suggested. Ms. Maines smiled an off-putting smile and nodded. Would you? That would be great. I have done everything I can. I hate to watch her suffer. Sure, lead the way, James said. The two walked behind the house to the barn where the horse was stalled. The moment James entered the barn, he knew something wasn't right. The only horse he saw was a very young, very healthy chestnut mare. Before he could even ask a question, Mr. Maines threw her hands in the air and screamed out a phrase in Latin. The only reason James thought it was Latin was that it sounded like some of the medical jargon he had read before. Circulus! James tried to run to the door, but something invisible blocked him. Ms. Maines laughed so hard she had to bend down with her hands on her knees to catch her breath. Shoo! Oh, I forgot to tell you, you're about a month too late to help old Sugarfoot. There was no fixing that old girl, so I got myself a new one. We will see how she fares on the old mountain. Now what in the world am I going to do with you? She asked herself. Maines paced back and forth in front of James, tapping her index finger on her pursed lips. What are you doing? James asked. Cut the shit. I know what you're up to. You're up here being a nosy ass. Don't you know snitches get stitches, boy? Nosy little boys get their noses shaved off. That's what I have heard. I tried to get you to stay away. I tried to tell you, but no, you had to come back. You just had to see if you could see what you wanted to see. So now I have to figure out what I am going to do with you, she said. I think there has been a misunderstanding. Really, I do. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even know this was a thing until you just did it. If anybody is at fault here, maybe it's you. I was just trying to help. Now let me out of here, James demanded. Oh, you are a liar too. Isn't that lovely? You should have left. This sleeping dog lie. That is what you should have done. There are 3 things I hate. A liar, a thief, and a nosy ass. It looks like I got all 3 with you. You don't need to know anything about me. Nothing. Do you hear me? Ms. Maines screamed. She clenched her hands into fists and screamed another piece of Latin. Non Kylie! James knew instantly what she had said. His lungs constricted in his chest. He couldn't draw a single breath. He fell to his knees and dug at his throat. His chest ached from the weight crushing his lungs. As the black cone of death started drifting over his field of vision, he used his last breath to beg. Please. James didn't beg for himself. He begged for Anna. He knew she would be devastated if this ended the way it looked like it might. He couldn't even imagine what she would do to the whole place if this played out the way it was headed. Maines unclenched her fists and undid her magic with one word. Kylie. Air flooded James's burning chest. He gasped for the sweet nectar of life. Finally, his vision was restored and he regained his footing. I can't just let you go now. I think you know that's true, but I can't have any more accidents up here either. So let me think now. Be quiet, Maines stated. She paced, tapped, and hummed, trying to find a solution to her problem. This woman was crazy as a bedbug, and James knew it. What was he supposed to do with a crazy, unbalanced witch? I won't tell a soul, I swear it. I won't say I saw a thing, and you will never see my face on your side of the mountain again. I'm sorry, I really am. I shouldn't have come here being nosy. You are right, I'm sorry, James lied. Maines walked up to the circle's edge and stared into James's eyes. I know you're not sorry, little boy. You would be, though, if you knew what you were trying to mess up for me. Hell, for all of us. I am sorry, but if you don't believe me, make me understand. Did you spell those chains? That is all I wanted to know. I'm sure you had your reasons. I just wanted to know, James said. He figured if he were going to die, he would just lay it all out there and see what she chose to do with it. I've done a lot of things. I don't know if that particular spell belongs to me or not. Business is business, my friend. What people do with the trinkets I make has nothing to do with me. I don't care. I'm trying to do something great here and you won't get in my way. You best believe that, boy, she yelled. What are you trying to do? Maybe I could help you, James said. I doubt that. You look like a fan of those bloodsuckers to me. You wouldn't like what I'm going to do, Maines said. James didn't like the sound of going to instead of trying to. This woman had a plan, and she was sure it would work. I don't guess it would hurt to tell you about it. After all, you're not going to remember it in a few moments anyway. I plan on eras. About the last 6 months of your life, Ms. Maines explained. James snapped his head up and stared at the woman. You don't have to do all that. I'm not going to say a word to anybody. Oh, I know you're not. I guess there is no harm getting some of this off my chest, even if you won't remember it, Maines said. She pulled up a stool and sat. She motioned for James to do the same. He sat in the middle of his circular prison and waited to hear her story. He was upset that this crazy person planned to erase Anna from his memory, but he was sure Anna would figure it out. Aren't you tired of being weak? Don't you want to be able to say no and defend yourself when the monsters come around? They steal the very blood from our veins and steal the hearts of anyone they chose with their lying faces and perfect bodies. It makes me sick that we have no choice in anything, Maines explained. James knew these were rhetorical questions, so he just remained quiet. She emphasized her statement by slapping at the veins in her arm. She pulled at her shirt that hid her heart. James wondered if heartbreak had broken this woman. Something had to have made her so cold. She had no compassion for anyone affected by the items she created. She just didn't care. I have designed the perfect spell. Of course, it has to be done in stages. You can't rush it. Do you know what I mean? I have started it a little at a time, and I believe it's working. I can make us mortals the most powerful beings on the planet, Maines tried to explain. James looked at her like he was already confused, and she just started explaining her brilliant plan. Okay, I'll take it slow so you might understand me. Do you know how immortals can't do magic and witches can't be immortal? Imagine an immortal being able to practice the craft. Their abilities would be limitless. They would have eternity to learn and study and grow in their power. The restrictions time places on us witches would be gone. We could try and try again if it were necessary to get something right. There would be no time limit, no clock ticking down on our existence. Powerful magic requires extraordinary ingredients. No immortal would just say, "Oh yes, here's my blood." They want something in return, and that's where I come in. I am quite the entrepreneur, if I do say so myself. I got myself a booming little barter business going on here. They supply a little blood, and I do the spell of their choosing. Bingo bango, everybody wins, Maines explained. The woman twirled and danced to the music inside her own head. Some of the magic is hurting people, though. I bet you didn't even know that, James said. No, it's not hurting people. It's hurting those monsters, and I could give a rat's ass about that, Maines raged. James knew her need for power or revenge or whatever this was far greater than anything he was equipped to deal with. I get that, he lied. You don't get shit. I saw you. You're in love with one of those abominations. You don't get anything, Maines screamed. James could almost see good and evil raging inside of her. However, this battle had been won by the dark side long ago. He just wondered what that meant for him. Everyone here is so brainwashed. Not me, no way, I know the truth. I can harness the power of the immortal through their blood. I will transfer that power into the body of a witch, and voila, immortal witch. And that witch will be me. I will be the most powerful being on the planet. If you were going to remember any of this, you could say, I knew her when, but sadly you won't. Shoo, do you know how good that feels? Have you ever had a secret and couldn't tell someone, but it felt like a ton of bricks was lifted off you when you could? Even if you don't remember, I will. Well, I have things to do, so let's get to it, shall we? This looks like it hurts quite a bit when I have done it before. But maybe you will remember the pain and not be so nosy next time, Maines said. James knew this was it. As crazy as this lady was, she might fry his brain completely. He took a moment to say goodbye to his Anna and prepared for the pain. He shut his eyes as tightly as he could and bit down on his bottom lip. His hands he turned to fists, and he sat rock solid on the floor. Obliviscature, Maines said. Under her breath, she mumbled more words James couldn't hear. He felt the pressure build behind his eyes until the pain had blinded him. He held his head with his fists and screamed in pain. She continued her chant in perfect rhythm, but James could not hear it as blood trickled from his ears. The pain paralyzed him. He tried to hold Anna's name in his mind, but then there was nothing but the black void of torment. James thought he heard a banging sound, but he couldn't open his eyes to see. Then, as if a light switch had been flipped, the pain subsided. The pounding in his head started to dull. He tried to pull his hands from his eyes so he could get a look at what had happened. Black dots clouded his vision, and the more he rubbed at them, the worse they became. Finally, he decided to sit quietly and let them clear on their own if they ever would. He slowly peeped through his tear-soaked lashes and could see the faint outline of a tall, red-haired lady standing right in front of him. As his vision became clearer, he saw the crumpled body of Ms. Maines lying at the feet of the woman. James saw the woman's fangs, and every vein in her body was visible through her skin. He could see her rage in her eyes. She was a terrifying, beautiful vision of rescue. He started to question the rescue part of it all when she approached him, and her form didn't change. James said nothing. He just stood and accepted his fate. He preferred this means of death over the slow explosion in his brain. Then the woman's face suddenly fixed itself into human form, and James started to breathe. "Are you James?" the woman asked. "Yes, ma'am," James answered. He always showed respect to the immortals, no matter if they looked to be his junior. They had the gift of youth. James felt the respect should lie in their wisdom, not their appearance. James tried to move out of the circle and found the barrier still in place. He started to panic. "It's okay, she's still alive, so her magic is still active. Don't worry, we will get you out of here. By the way, I'm Renee Reed, Anna's mom. Nice to meet ya," Renee said with a chuckle. She raised her finger to James in a wait a moment gesture and put her phone to her ear. "Yeah, I got him, but we have a problem. We need the gatekeeper to come up here. Where are we anyway?" Renee asked James. "Mains's place," he answered. "Oh no, I can't believe this is happening. I can't wait to find out what happens next. Until next time, bye for now."